This is the story of a digital execution. Chef Marcus Thorne was on the verge of realizing a lifelong dream until a single voice in the online world decided to tear it all down. A renowned food blogger, Sterling Croft, launched a vicious campaign against him. The reviews weren't critiques. They were character assassinations, each word dripping with a prejudice Marcus knew intimately. His restaurant, his reputation, his sanity, everything was on the line. He was fighting an invisible enemy with a very real weapon. But what his enemy didn't know was that Marcus had a secret ingredient, an unbreakable legacy. This is what happens when the man they tried to bury unearths a victory they never saw coming. Marcus's journey began not in a professional kitchen, but in the heart of his grandmother's apartment, where the air was thick with the smells of spices and stories. Here he learned that food was a language of memory, a direct line to his history and soul. He carried this truth with him like a shield through culinary school and the grueling, often hostile kitchens of Europe. He faced the subtle slights and the not-so-subtle doubts, answering them only with the perfection of his craft, his flawless sauces, his precise knife work. His dream was heritage, a restaurant that was his love letter to the flavors of his past, reimagined with technical brilliance. For a few beautiful months, the dream was alive. The dining room hummed with energy. Locals and foodies celebrated his elevated soul food, a cuisine that tasted of both innovation and profound comfort. He felt, for the first time, that he had found his place. But in the digital shadows, a predator was circling. Sterling Croft's blog, The Gastronomic Gaze, took notice. The first review was patronizing, questioning the authenticity of a deconstructed gumbo. The second was colder, dismissing his technique as trying too hard. Marcus felt a familiar chill. This wasn't about his food. This was about him. The campaign escalated swiftly and ruthlessly. Croft's next post, Fusion or Confusion, was a direct assault. He didn't just critique a dish, he questioned the legitimacy of a black chef daring to refine French cuisine, suggesting Marcus was polluting a sacred tradition. The digital gates of hell swung open. The comment section became a sewer of racist vitriol, all emboldened by the critics' intellectualized bias. The impact was a financial and emotional freefall. Reservation calls were replaced by cancellation emails. A promised magazine feature vanished. The vibrant dining room fell into an eerie, echoing silence. Marcus was forced to stand at his pass, watching his life's work evaporate. The crushing debt forced him to let go of his small, loyal staff, a gut-wrenching failure. He worked alone, the silence broken only by the frantic tick of the clock and the roar of his own despair. The final, cruel blow came from a table of 4, smug, well-dressed, and clearly there to mock. They sent back barely touched plates, sneering that the flavors were too exotic. As they left, one man clapped Marcus on the shoulder. "Maybe stick to fried chicken and collards, chef. Know your audience." The words were a precise strike, confirming his deepest fear. He would always be a stereotype to them, never an artist. Driven by a final desperate fury, Marcus confronted Sterling Croft at a glamorous culinary gala. The blogger was holding court, surrounded by admirers. He was everything Marcus expected, polished, smug, and utterly untouchable. When Marcus confronted him, Croft didn't flinch. He offered a cold, dismissive smile. "I call it as I see it, Chef Thorne. Some palates are simply more refined. Perhaps you're just not cut out for this level." The dismissal was absolute. The door had been slammed in his face. The battle was over before it began. 1 week. The bank's final notice lay on the cold steel counter. This was the end. In a final, painful ritual, Marcus opened his laptop to the Michelin Guide livestream. He needed to witness the pinnacle he would never reach, to sear that loss into his memory. The announcer listed the usual celebrated names. Then a deliberate pause, a change in tone. This year, the voice resonated. The committee honors a restaurant that embodies true culinary courage, a place that challenges convention with profound technique and soul. Marcus's heart hammered against his ribs. A treacherous, impossible hope flared. The screen cut to a video, and there it was, his braised oxtail, his deconstructed gumbo. They were praising the intimate warmth of his empty dining room. Every word of the voiceover was a perfect description of heritage. He stood, paralyzed, breath trapped in his lungs. Then the live reveal. A Michelin star is awarded to Heritage and Chef Marcus Thorne. The sound of his own name was an earthquake. In that instant, the world realigned. Across the city, Sterling Croft watched the same broadcast, his face a pale mask of shock and utter defeat. The foundation of his prejudice had crumbled into dust. The phone erupted, a joyous, relentless peal of vindication. By morning, his story was viral. Michelin vindicates chef smeared by blogger. Heritage was not just saved, it was immortalized, its reservations booked for over a year. Sterling Croft's digital empire collapsed into irrelevance, his blog scrubbed from the internet, a permanent testament to his bias. But for Marcus, standing once more in his vibrant, bustling kitchen, the star was never about revenge. It was armor. It was an institutional decree that his heritage and his genius were not up for debate. He had faced the court of public opinion and the poison of racism, and he was judged not by them, but by the supreme standard of his craft. His story is a stark warning. Injustice doesn't always scream. Sometimes it writes a clever blog post. It wears a suit and a condescending smile. But excellence, forged in the fire of that injustice, becomes an unassailable fortress. So we are left with a haunting question. How many other Marcus Thornes are out there right now, their brilliance, their art, their potential, being systematically silenced by a Sterling Croft before they ever get their chance to shine? The next time you form an opinion, you must ask yourself, are you judging the content of one's character and the quality of their work? Or are you merely echoing a prejudice you were too comfortable to question? The answer doesn't just define them, it defines you.